If you were to make a hard mode in Hollow Knight Silksong, what kinds of things would you include? No heals is a no-brainer, but what if we take it a few steps further? How about no silk skills, or even no tools? Well, what if I told you that Silksong already has this hard mode? That's right, I'm talking about the cursed version of the Witch's Crest that Hornet has to use during the questline to unlock that crest. This video is my experience in Act 2 of Silksong in hard mode. Let's get started. Act 2 is huge! The Citadel is already by far the biggest area in all of Silksong. Literally, some of the sub-areas in this place are bigger than places in Act 1. But it's not just the Citadel. There are side paths and even entirely new areas outside of the Citadel that are only accessible with the Act 2 movement ability. And with such a huge amount of collectibles to collect, wishes to complete, and bosses to beat, we have a full plate for today's video. To try to get through the content as efficiently as possible, I'll basically be splitting up my Act 2 gameplay into 3 sections. The first section is by far the shortest, which is fitting for its name. My goal is to get all of the movement upgrades as fast as possible, and I'll be following the same route that's been used in speedruns. The first stop is here, the Cogwork Dancers. This is a personal favorite boss of mine. The Mantis Lord PTSD flashbacks are real. Luckily, we're still very early in Act 2, meaning the difficulty hasn't picked up quite yet, and the Cogwork Dancers go down on the first track. Wow, look at that, a hitless fight. Okay, well, technically the fight isn't over yet, but if I manage to not get hit until now, surely I'm not going to get hit against the slow-moving, depressed, all-alone Defeating the dancers unlocks the Cogwork Core, which you are going to be immediately leaving, as our next objective is in the Whispering Vaults. There is a small enemy gauntlet guarding the way in, but it shouldn't be anything too crazy. Man, this does not bode well for how the High Halls Gauntlet is going to go. With full access to the Whispering Vaults, it's basically a straight shot towards Strobia with 2 quick pit stops. One to open up this shortcut to Songclave, and the second to pick up the Pale Oil for my second nail upgrade. This is one of 2 nail upgrades to get in Act 2. But this upgrade especially is going to have to pull its weight in this playthrough. Now we're all ready to fight Pharloom's favorite thespian, Strobio! For this run, he's blocking 2 things. The first song of the threefold melody and the claw line. Going into the fight with only 3 health is a recipe for disaster, so I don't get it on the first try, but we quickly come back for an encore. With Strobio down, we can enter into the Underworks and reach the claw line. There is a little bit of tricky platforming in the way, but no major obstacles blocking the path to the claw line. With the harpoon, we're ready to start heading toward Mount Fae and getting the double jump. But there are a whole lot of things to do on the way. Remember, efficiency is key right now. We're kinda in section 1.5 right now. Still haven't gotten both of the movement upgrades, but still doing a lot of collectible hunting. Starting with the Sacred Cylinder. And as I move through the Underworks and the Whispering Vaults, I make sure to grab any mass fragments or lost fleas on the way. And just like that, the first part of the threefold melody is learned. Hey, that means we're basically 1/3 done with Act 2, right? Right? I try not to waste too much time on the way to Mount Fae, but there are still several things to do on the way. There are fleas to find, shortcuts to unlock, masks to wear, and Ventrica stations to unlock. Oh boy. I even run through the High Halls while I'm in the area. Not to even try the infamous gauntlet, just to unlock the shortcut to get back here quickly later. But now, no more stalling. A quick little trip through the slab, which can't be fully explored now anyways, and it's time for Mount Fae. Ah, gotta love Mount Fae. It's basically a Celeste level, but in Silksong. It's a fun platforming sequence that provides just enough challenge to be enjoyable, even on repeat playthroughs. One insanely loud screech later, Seriously, does this happen for anybody else? Like, why is this bug's roar so damn loud? Anyway, one insanely loud screech later, and double jump is acquired. With all of the movement abilities acquired, it's time for section 2, which is basically a huge collectathon. It gets started, funnily enough, right here in Mount Fae. So, here's the plan. There are some seriously tough challenges in Act 2, so I'd like to be as strong as possible before even attempting any of them. For this challenge, the only ways to really get stronger are health and damage upgrades, so I'll try to max out both of these as much as possible. And of course, since I do plan to do Act 3 eventually, there's a bunch of fleas to find, wishes to fulfill, and other things to take care of. I figured I might as well do all of this now, so that once I start the challenging content in Act 2, there won't be anything else left to distract me. Let's get started. Now, I fully expect this to change soon, but if you had to guess, what do you think has been the hardest part in Act 2 so far? The bosses? The enemy gauntlets? Nope, it's not having a damn compass. Since I'm cursed and can't equip tools, I've had to do this whole playthrough without the compass on. Now, I'm familiar enough with Silksong to where this definitely isn't the end of the world, but damn is it annoying. One of the first things to do is find the lost merchant of Songclave, as there are a couple wishes involving her. The next stop is the White Word with a friend who needs our help down here. The main thing is to rescue our best boy Sherma. The silk upgrade he gives as a reward isn't useful, but Hornet is still more than happy to help him out anyways. The 2 Citadel farming quests are up next for the Fine Pins and the Choir Cloaks. These used to be a lot more annoying to do, as the enemies weren't even guaranteed to drop their items, but thankfully that was changed in a previous patch, so these quests aren't so bad. We're headed to the Putrefied Ducks next, but on the way is the Memoriam, with the biggest flea in the world you've ever seen in your life. The second quest involving this damn merchant is also on the way to the Ducks, so we knocked that out too. This already small area has even less things than normal that we care about in this playthrough, so let's just grab them real quick and get out of here. This key opens up the slab for more exploration, which itself has a few things I'll need to grab. Vogue is a special flea that resides here, and finding her is needed for entering Act 3. And lastly, also needed for Act 3, is to find what will soon become Fleetopia, so I can eventually let the fleas know where to find it. Next up is probably the single biggest quest in Silksong, the Flavors of Pharloom. The first stop is in Sinner's Road to grab the pickled muck maggot from Big Booty Lugoli, who goes down surprisingly easy, only taking 3 tries. The next stop is way back near Bone Bottom, grabbing some moss stew from the Moss Druid. And after killing way too many ants, I grab the vintage nectar from under the halfway home. And easily the most remote location, the crust nut is found near the middle of the sands of Karak. There's still a lot more to this area, but we'll save the rest of it for later. And the final leg of the quest line, easily the most annoying, is the Courier's Rasher. Guys? Are we for real right now? Are we for fucking real right now? It's actually insane how annoying this is. For whatever reason, the couriers won't let you do the delivery if you're cursed. I guess they also don't like pregnant people. But seriously, this made me rage quit and end stream early, wasting literally the last hour on this quest just to not even be able to complete it. Pissed me off so bad. And this is a big one too. Not getting the next nail upgrade? One of the only ways I can ever get stronger in this run, and I'm actually weaker there compared to a normal run. How lovely. Oh well, all I can do is move on. With that disappointing turn of events behind us, Section 2 is almost over, and the boss rush of Section 3 is about to begin. For now, as I collect the last few mass shards I need, we're once again in a Section 2.5 of sorts. 3 fragments left. The next one is in the Wisp Thicket, so while I'm here, I also take out the Father of the Flame. But first, 2 fragments left. Father of the Flame does give me a little bit of trouble, but I'm able to take him out on the second try. The reward for this boss is a tool, which is effectively useless to me. So why am I even fighting him? Well, that's because he's a boss. And yep, that's right, for this run, and probably all of my future challenge runs, I'll be taking on every single boss in all 3 acts. The penultimate mass shard is the reward for defeating this fella. You know him, you love him, it's Savage Beastfly 2. Like the Father of the Flame, this Beastfly does give me a little trouble, but he's by no means one of the real threats in Act 2, and third tries the charm. And turning in the wish. One fragment left. The final health upgrade is at the top of this refreshingly unique platforming sequence in the slab. While the max possible health in Silksong is 10 masks, the max within Act 2 is 9. I also might not even bother with getting the last upgrade even when I do get to Act 3, as for the most challenging bosses, having 9 health makes Hornet just as tanky as having 10. With our health and damage at their limit for the rest of Act 2, we immediately get put to the test against one of my favorite bosses in the entire game. I performed pretty well against this boss in the past, but for a drawn out fight like this one, having the ability to heal is usually pretty important. Thankfully, I'm literally him. That boss will never get old. We do want to grab the Architect's Melody at the top of the Cogwork Heart sooner rather than later, so it's time for some more parkouring. I actually managed to get through this entire sequence hitless, which I think is a first for me. Being one of the very few bosses that actually yields a reward that will be useful in this challenge, the Unraveled is up next. This is honestly the first boss in the whole game that gave me any real trouble. It's such a long fight with 3 distinct phases for the boss itself, in addition to multiple waves of enemies in between these phases. A rough 30 minutes of attempts later, and I finally take this monstrosity down, acquiring the second Silk Heart. Oh my god, that was a close one. I would have crashed the fuck out if I died there after already killing the boss. Before we get to the toughest bosses of the act, there are several smaller bosses to take care of. Okay, another boss I have not fought in since my literal first playthrough. The Broodmother isn't a tough boss by any means, but I am out of practice for this fight. I haven't fought her since my first playthrough of the game, so I basically have to relearn the entire fight from scratch, except without being able to heal. It takes a few tries to rebuild the muscle memory, but this horny devil goes down before too long. The next boss to take out is the Voltworm, and seriously, I use the word boss here very, very lightly. A relatively small health pool, and only 2 extremely simple attacks are all this boss has to its name. The reward for it is actually very nice, but as usual, useless for this challenge. Oh man, I really don't like this boss. Thanks for sending me back to my bench faster, I guess? Now for a boss I'm much more fond of. Gotta say, I'm really proud of myself. I've come such a long way with this boss. In my first playthrough, the Raging Conchfly was one of the toughest fights in the whole playthrough. Like, probably in the top 5. Look at me now though, only taking 2 tries to kill this boss, all while having a weaker needle than normal and not even being able to heal or use tools. And finally are the 4 brothers Sigma and Baby Gronk. Even though these siblings aren't required until Act 3, it's still nice to take them out now in Act 2 while the fight's a little easier. After these guys gave me so much trouble in my Pogo only challenge, it was pure catharsis to drop down here and take these losers out on my first try. See ya in the next run. We're pretty much ready for those heavy hitters of Act 2. There's a couple more minor bosses I still need to do, but I'll need to beat the High Hall's Gauntlet before them, and I'm saving that for after Grohl the Great. In her journey towards him, Hornet takes a moment to join Chakra and give a farewell to her old master. Here we go. No more simple bosses that I can beat in 2 or 3 attempts. Now it's time for Grohl the Great. A simple boss that I could beat in 2 or 3 attempts. If it wasn't for the fact that not only is the nearest bench approximately 2.3 light years away from the boss, and the run back is filled with enemies who will just randomly pop out sometimes to hit you with no time to react, but also a 6-wave enemy gauntlet with some of the most annoying enemies in the game. Like, seriously. In the full hour of attempts it took before I beat him, I took way more damage from the enemies in this gauntlet rather than from Grohl itself. With enough tries, I finally got the god run that I needed, getting to the arena without taking any damage on the run back, and taking minimal damage in the pre-boss gauntlet. Time for the big boss himself. Again, fighting Grohl himself is not the problem. Most of his attacks are pretty easy to dodge, and with the proper response to these attacks, I can pretty safely deal with Grohl himself. The claw line is a godsend here too. I've never really seen how much it shines against this boss before, as aside from my first playthrough, during the only other time I've ever fought this boss, I wasn't allowed to use it. Finding the right time to dodge, dash in, and close the gap with the claw line to get a few hits in, and dodge away again was a careful balance, but once I got the hang of it, Grohl went down no problem. Literally, no problem. I ended up beating him hitless on the winning run.
Nice! Fuck you! Fuck you! Suck my...
There's no time to rest for me though, and it's straight back into the thick of it with the High Halls Gauntlet. I went into the details of each wave in my last challenge run, so I'd recommend checking that out if you're interested. Let's go over the highlights for this run. A lot is the same as it was in the Pogo only challenge. The Maestros are easily the biggest threat for the non-mini boss enemies. Some of the enemies switched places on how annoying they are though. These bell thrower enemies that were a huge headache for Pogo only are some of the easiest enemies to deal with this time around, going down in only 3 hits even with my lower damage nail. These flying duck enemies are the opposite, however. They really weren't a struggle for Pogo only, but for some reason felt much harder to deal with this time around, dealing a lot of the damage I would take throughout these attempts. Without being able to heal, the true challenge of this gauntlet comes from just how damn long it is. I have a very limited amount of health, so I usually just decide to reset right away when taking any damage in the first wave or two. Getting deep into the gauntlet without losing too much health is a big struggle, and 90% of the times I do make it to the final wave, I don't have enough health left to even live a single hit. So what's the plan here? Is the only way to win to get some kind of god run with enough health for the last wave to just tank through it? Of course not. Here's the answer. Just lock in.
I'm so fucking muscular and swole and hot and sexy. Let's fucking go!
With the High Halls defeated and the threefold melody fully completed, we're in the end game of Act 2 now. There are 2 more side bosses available to fight now that I've completed the High Halls. First up is the second Sentinel, who actually gave me a decent run for my money, taking me 3 tries to beat. Gotta say, it's nice to be able to take less than 10 minutes to beat a boss though, after the last 2.5 hours of the last 2 fights I did. The other side boss is the spar against Chakra. Holy shit, she's kicking my ass! Chakra is a very missable boss, as if you don't seek her out here in Greymoor after finishing her questline, but before progressing to Act 3, you'll miss out on the fight against her completely. Because of this, I've actually never fought her before now. Learning this tricky fight while not even being able to heal was definitely a tough challenge, taking multiple attempts. The fight itself really reminded me of the fight against Nailslage Sai, with Chakra jumping around the arena all over the place at insanely fast speeds. Overall, a very cool fight. And with all of those bosses over and done with, it's finally time for the finale. Hornet puts on the show of a lifetime with the threefold melody, unlocking the elevator that will take her up to the cradle. We already know the daughter and mother that are waiting for us up there. Let's get started.
Let's fucking go, Lace. I am better than you. Let me turn this music.
Before we get to Grandmother Silk, there is actually a reward for defeating Lace here. The final Silk Heart. With a total of 3 and a max total Silk of 3 notches while cursed, I can now technically always regenerate to max Silk with just the Silk Hearts. This isn't actually super useful or anything, but it's still pretty funny. Huh? Oh yeah, I was just in the middle of something. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm still trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025, and I need your help to make it happen. I promise I'm not delusional. Also, if you're watching on mobile, make sure to put some hype on the video. It really helps the video's performance in the almighty YouTube algorithm. I live streamed this and all challenge runs, so if you want to check those out, make sure to hit the bell to get notifications when I go live and follow my other social medias. Lastly, if you want to go the extra mile to support the channel, you can become a member for as little as $1 a month to gain access to exclusive emotes, end-of-video shoutouts, and more in the future. And of course, one last thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.